Hello and welcome back. This is a little off the board for me. I'm a fantasy hockey channel, but this is my home account with Igor Shesterkin and the Rangers, and Igor just rejected a massive contract offer. So Kevin Weeks this morning reporting that Igor Shesterkin has turned down an $88 million, $11 million AAV offer, and it's amazing to me that the Rangers got out in front of it, made that offer to him, and he rejected that. Obviously, this SpongeBob is not helping the cause at all. This is terrible news to wake up to if you're a Rangers fan. A number of people have been panicking, but as I looked at in the fantasy goaltending video, Igor is one of the few goaltenders that you can kind of rely on every year in fantasy. He's been in the top 10 each of the last 3 seasons. He's obviously elite, and that carries over into the playoff numbers, which are elite level as well. But what I want to walk you through is the cap percentage allocation, which is very dangerous to do. So in the offseason, when I was looking at the potential extension for Shesterkin, I wanted to look at comparables. In the salary cap era, what kind of cap allocation is given to goaltenders? And you can see there's a lot of teams that aren't paying a lot for goaltending. 1.75, 159, 146. Then you have Matt Murray at under 1% of the cap. You've got Bennington under 1% of the cap. And then you've got, even recently, Aiden Hill, 2.64% of the cap. So you can win with maybe average goaltending, but being paid significantly below market value. You can find a, kind of discount bin goaltender if you're playing with a really good defensive team in front of them and win the Stanley Cup. And you can see, obviously, Pittsburgh repeated back-to-back with Matt Murray. His career's kind of gone downhill since then, and they made the right move to move off of him. But then at the opposite end of the spectrum, there are some guys who you do have to pay, and they do hold up their end of the bargain in terms of J.S. Giguère, Marc-Andre Fleury, Tim Thomas, Jonathan Quick, Corey Crawford, and then recently, Vasilevsky signed this deal. He was initially paid $3.5 million, ultimately got the raise to $9.5 and 11.66% of the cap, and he won the cup. And then most recently, Sergei Bobrovsky, the highest paid goaltender to win the Stanley Cup, almost 12% of the cap at $10 million. He's the first $10 million plus goaltender to win the Stanley Cup. So he's the outlier. He's not the rule. The rule is the average. You have 5.41% of your cap allocated to your starting goaltender, and you can win a cup. The median is a little bit below that at 4.44. But we can see here you can win with under 2% or 3% of your cap allocated to goaltending. So based off of all of this, the number that I thought, the absolute max number at 11.98%, 12% thereabout, would be between $10.7 and $11 million. That's what I thought the Rangers should offer at the max end of their bargaining process. And they ultimately offered the absolute max of that by giving him 8 times 11, and he turns that down. So that is very alarming if you're a Rangers fan. This was assuming a $90 million cap. It's a little bit less than that now, but it will go up in the future. So maybe that percentage comes down slightly to 11.5% or whatever. But even with that, I think an $11.5 to $12 million goaltender is not a wise investment. Now, as I just mentioned, the Rangers are a little bit struggling for cap space at the moment, and we can take a look at their cap allocation for next year and see why this is important. So after this year, they do have to sign some guys. They're probably not going to bring back Riley Smith. Jimmy Vesey's been a serviceable guy, but not necessarily important. Bleed is an AHLer. You'll have Kaapo Kakko, who they have to make a decision on this year. They'll probably trade him. He has not been up to par in terms of where they drafted him and what they expected from him. Lafreniere is going to get maybe a $5 million raise off of this RFA bridge deal. So he's an RFA at the end of the year. I'm assuming going to make at least 7 times 7 just based on his trajectory and his age. He's entering his prime. He would probably want to sign a long-term deal, 7-8 years in that range, and you're going to have to pay a premium on that. Then when you look at the defense, you already had these trade rumors about Trouba at $8 million. You've got Lindgren on a 1-year bridge deal at $4.5 million. That's probably not going to be tenable if you're going to give Shesterkin $12 million. You've got Keandre Miller, who would fill in as your number 1 D. He's on a 2-year bridge at $3.87, so he's going to need a raise. And then you look a little bit further down, Zach Jones would have to step up into the second left shot defenseman role, and he's an RFA as well. So with all of that said, if you pay Shesterkin $12 million, you're going to lose Ryan Lindgren. You probably will lose Jacob Trouba as a cap casualty, and then Miller and Jones will have to fill in. So you're significantly limiting your blue line and your ability to prevent shots from quality areas, and you're going to rely on Shesterkin to be that elite level guy. Now, Again, this is for fantasy purposes, but he has been elite level over the last number of years. Ever since he came into the league in 2020, he's been in an upward trajectory and improving year over year. He is elite level. There's no question about it. 97th percentile in wins, 94th in total saves, 89th in goals saved above expected. But one thing to note, he was a 912 save percentage last year. If you're making $12 million, that's unacceptable. If you're making 5.6, whatever he's making right now, that is fine, and you can definitely live with that, and they have been. But I think if you pay a goaltender for 8 years times $12 million, you're going to expect him to be a 920 save percentage guy at least every single season. And if he drops below that for any of those seasons, it's going to significantly hinder your team's ability to be competitive and push for that Stanley Cup. And you still have a lot of young talent coming. You've got Lafreniere, you've got Gabe Perreault, who's in the system. You got Brennan Othman coming up. There are still some guys that you can fill in and replace some of these veterans that are on the way out. I know their core is getting a little bit older, but they're still in their low to mid 30s, and then they still do have this next wave coming up, and you're going to hinder yourself by paying a goaltender $12 million. So these are my thoughts. I don't think they can give this offer to Shesterkin anything over $11 million. It's crazy to me that he turned that down, considering that Jeremy Swayman is essentially the same goaltender, maybe a little bit less start volume, 44 games. Now he's entering into his number one role. And this is an area where he's been extremely good. So 916, slightly better last year than Shesterkin. He was just as good as Shesterkin in the playoffs, and his goal saved above expected, 97th percentile there. The save volume lower because of the starts, but he will be expected to be relied upon similar to Shesterkin, and he just signed for $3 million less than the offer that the Rangers just gave to Igor Shesterkin. So as we look at the playoff numbers, Swayman was a 933 in the playoffs, was incredible for Boston. Shesterkin, not much worse, but a 926. So they're pretty much comparable. I got some flack for that by commenting on the post this morning saying that Swayman was close to Shesterkin. People saying he's not, but in the playoffs he absolutely was, and that was the deciding factor in terms of signing him. I remember him saying that he chipped that off his list, that Boston had said he was not reliable in the playoffs. He comes back and puts up this kind of performance and ultimately gets his money. So the fact that he's making $3 million less than the offer that the Rangers just gave to Shesterkin is alarming, that Shesterkin wants that kind of money. I don't think they can give that to him, but what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below, and we'll be back to our normal fantasy hockey content in the next video. Thank you for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one.